Here's what you need to assemble the latest version, version 4 of Volksswitch. You'll need to print these plastic parts, the switch base, switch cover, the activation surface flexure spring, the post, and the activation surface mount. For the electronic components, you'll need 2 jumper wires already prepared. They're just simple breadboard jumper wires. So they have a nice plastic part here to help you do your insertion of the wire. It's already pre-stripped for you. There are 2 plastic parts for mounting the headphone jack. One is the base, and the other is a cover that slips over the top of the base to hold the headphone jack more rigidly in place. And there's the switch mount, which has a little receptacle here for a 2-prong, 2-pin micro switch. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to assemble the electronic parts. Oh, by the way, you should have some super glue on hand. And you'll need this conductive paste from Chipquick. This is a 10-gram syringe, but you can get it in 5-gram syringe as well. But we'll start with just assembling electronic components, and that means we'll need the mounts for the switch and the headphone jack and the jumper wires. We'll also need the conductive paste and super glue at one point in the process. We'll start with the headphone jack. In this mount, the headphone jack mount, as well as the switch mount, there will be 2 holes that have sort of a funnel entrance into them. And then there will be other holes just to accommodate pins and bumps and things that appear on the bottom of this particular headphone jack. But it's the 2 that have the funnel openings that are where we'll be injecting this paste. Also, there are 2 tunnels here for inserting the jumper wires, and they accommodate the length of the exposed wire and this first part of the plastic surround. Same thing goes for the switch mount. It has 2 funnel-shaped openings for injecting the conductive paste. What you'll find is for each injection port, there's also an output port, outlet port. And as you inject the paste, you'll see it start to come out these outlet ports. And that's really just to let you know that the inner chamber is completely full. So let's begin by assembling this headphone jack mount with headphone jack inside. I like to do this on a piece of paper towel because it can be a little bit messy, and have some additional pieces sitting aside in case you need them just to wipe your hands off if you happen to touch the paste. In this particular case, I'm using the metal nozzle because it has a fairly large bore, and I have a little latex sleeve that fits over the top of the needle and lets me ensure that the paste inside doesn't dry while it's sitting in the needle itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to inject into these funnel-shaped openings, and we're going to watch for excess to come out the outlet port. Once it does, we can stop the injection process. There it comes out. You can see that. And we'll just go with the other one. Rotate it a bit here. Checked here. And you can see it start to come out the outlet port again. At this point, this is just the way I prefer to do it. I like to insert the wires next to push any excess paste up into the opening for the headphone jack pins. Just sort of feel around in there for the internal hole. Okay, so those are inserted fully. And now it's time to put the headphone jack in place, and it just sits with the jack itself faced outward, and it slides right in on top of the lower base part of the mount. Now we're going to put the cover in place, and it has a couple of little ridges here on either side that match the cuts on either side of the base, just for a little additional mechanical connection. But now I'm also going to put some super glue back here in the corner of the mount and slide the mount on top. Push down a little bit on the headphone jack just so it's not getting in the way of the top as it goes on. Okay, and really that's it for the headphone jack mount. And we'll do the switch mount. Alright, I didn't demonstrate this with the headphone jack, but it can be useful to insert the electronic component into the holes prior to doing the actual assembly. And that's just because 3D printing isn't perfect, and there could be little wisps of things in there that can block holes. So what I suggest is taking your electronic component, go ahead and insert it in to the hole, into the holes, and then extract it again before you put in the paste. So let's repeat this now with the micro switch mount. We'll inject until we see something come out of the hole. There it comes out one side. Put it in the other. There it is. Okay, so that one's ready as well. And there's no real rush to do the assembly because the paste dries slowly. So we're not going to put any super glue on this piece. Let's use these to push the switch down all the way. Press on the knob as well. Alright, so that is ready to go, and I'm going to now put the ends of the wire into the other receptacles, and it doesn't matter which goes in where, just that they go in, get inserted all the way. So that's the circuit, and it's ready to be inserted into the base. And it's inevitable you'll get a little bit of the paste on you. It just washes off with soap and water. Okay, so we're going to put it in this base here. You may be able to see an indentation for the headphone jack mount and another indentation for the micro switch mount. Because the headphone jack is sticking out from the mount, we're going to have to place it into the base and then slide it forward. So the cutout for for that mount is a little bit exaggerated to allow you to put it in place and then slide forward. And yeah, we're done with the paste. We'll put a little bit of glue down in that cutout, and even a little bit on the face of where the hole is for the headphone jack to come through. And I'll wait on the other mount for now. So we'll put him into position and then slide forward. Now I'm going to put some glue down here, not a lot, and we'll just work the wires into place and push that down. Push those all into place there. And now we just need to let that dry. Alright, so while that's drying, we'll assemble the remaining parts, and we will have already chosen the tension of the flexure spring that works best for this individual, and we'll have already chosen the length of the post that provides the right activation distance. But how the assembly, we'll insert the post into the flexure spring. We'll take the activation surface mount and screw that onto the post, and then take the activation surface, and we will be screwing that onto the activation surface mount. Now, once I've chosen the spring that I like and the post length that I like, I'm going to actually glue these parts together so that they'll hold more rigidly, and I won't run the risk of cracking this printed part here or the threading on this by over tightening the activation surface. So the way to accomplish that is we'll put some super glue on the flexure spring, right where the activation surface mount will go. We'll screw this in place. Then we'll do the same thing on top of the activation surface mount. And before I screw the activation surface on, I'm going to go ahead and insert the flexure spring into the cover. And there are cutouts in the spring to accommodate these tabs. Now I can screw the activation surface onto the mount. And don't over tighten it, because again those parts will separate. Okay, and now we can just press this down on top of the base. It takes a little bit of force, but there it is in place. The paste will take 3 days to be at its lowest resistance. So we can just let this set on the side and finish drying.